I had these friends that went to this like long-term nonprofit rehab, and it was like the bottom of the barrel. And it's odd because those ones work usually a lot better than the fancy ones, you know? So I was like
That's where I
really
went.
lucky that I didn't have health insurance and like wound up at one of those. And I like developed this whole community of like hundreds of people that like had been homeless. Like I could actually talk to people that were on Skid Row and then got off, and that gave me like this belief that it was possible. When you
Wow.
go to those fancy rehabs, you know, you're probably not going to run into someone that was on Skid Row.
Yeah.
And
You
they
might
let
have run
yeah
into Matthew Perry, but
yeah exactly. So they let me get a job. They helped me like form a resume and like get work boots and like
yeah.
tools, and they like got me out there. And not only that, like once I got the job, I could stay there and
Yeah.
like collect a check, and then that set me up for like a foundation. You know, I had like 3 or 4 grand.
Yeah.
And it's like, okay, I have enough money. I bought a car. I bought a car for like $1,200. I got a room at a sober living for like $600. It just gave me that little jump off point, you know, that they like walked me through this 4 to 6 months. They like held my hand
Yeah.
back into society. And we just need a lot more of that. There's not a lot of that going on.
That's weird. You know, I was in Minnesota when I got sober, and the guy I also really appreciated what you were saying about like junkie love, because man, that is a very specific thing. And the guy I went to a fancy place. I got 1 week of rehab on my insurance, and then they're like, okay, it's up. You can go home now. I was like, I can't fucking go home. I'll be doing drugs again.
Yeah.
And so I put myself on general assistance, and then called around, and I had some bad experiences with men in that week of rehab. And so I was looking for a place that was like just specifically female, not that would it was better than just all men, but there's
Yeah.
still like lesbians and flirting and all that stuff. Not the same though. And I called around, and there was like a state funded I remember this woman answered, and she's like, you ever heard of boot camp? Because I was like, what's it like? And I knew that was somewhat what I needed. And it was like 40 women. Basically, everyone was avoiding jail. It was like their last chance. You know, it was kind of one of those like very, very rough people who'd been in and out of the system. And that shit saved me. Those women, I haven't done heroin ever since. I didn't stay sober forever, but they really taught me like how to be. I stayed there for like 7 months. I ended up just living there, and then I got a bike, and I would ride my bike to my job at a coffee shop. It's like you do start to just like build your life. But I don't know. There's so many things that I think about now, because that was in the late 90s.
Mm-hmm.
And I think I've talked about this before, and I think about this a lot, like how, and I see it even in 12-step now, like this, I hate this term, but like, for lack of a better word, the kind of wokeness creeping into everything.
Yeah.
In the past decade. So I see it in the rooms. There was over Zoom during the pandemic, this woman logged in and was speaking and was giving everybody a lecture about their white privilege. I was like, no fucking dude like you needs to hear that at like rock bottom. That this shit has no place in here whatsoever. It's and changing like the preamble to like person, just things like that. I wonder if all of that critical race theory had that kind of crept into rehabs, had I been able to get better in the way that I could, because I was very conscious of the fact that I was like the only white girl. I was pretty much, I felt very spoiled and privileged, not to use the word that's been overused, but I was aware that I had a lot more. And then I felt like I couldn't talk, and I would say this to my counselors, and they're like, that you're all equal, just speak, tell your story. And I've said this before, like when I tell my story, that I'll be like, white people are fucked up. like I thought that I was so, you know, like they'd be like, damn, that's fucked up. And these are people who had fucking horrific stories. And it made me, but I don't know if that would be the same now, or what they're teaching in these rehabs. And I certainly what is your experience of, you're kind of a little bit closer to it than me in terms of rehabs and,
Yeah.
uh, what's your sense of
It
that?
it it has crept in, and I noticed it in AA and, or 12-step, and, I've gone to cities where, like, I wanna go to a meeting and, like, I look at the meeting schedule and it's like BIPOC, HIV positive meeting or, like, LGBTQ, and it's like, there's no meeting. I can't go to
Yeah.
a meeting because there is no, like, white guy meeting. Of course there are, but, like, this is just like a
Don't go to
spoof.
that one.
Yeah, but yeah, yeah.